Then come on across to me.
Coming up this evening on The Experience, how's your financial literacy? We're going to be talking with some folks about that. A great partnership, and we'll be telling you more about that in just a few minutes. But first, we're very pleased that Worcester Police Chief Gary Gemme able to stop by. Chief, good to see you.
Nice to be here, Hank.
So, Chief, let's talk a little bit about, here we are in the summer. You know, the dog days of summer are coming up, and usually I would think that's when the police department might be a little bit busier, especially since we had some very hot and humid weather earlier, and yet things seem to be pretty quiet. How are things going in the city?
Things are going very well in the city. One of the things that we're trying to replicate is what happened in 2008 when we had the Summer Impact Program, 18 additional police officers out on the street every night during the busiest times of the year, where we had very little violence in the city. We had no homicides and we didn't have a non-fatal shooting. So we're hoping that this year we're seeing the same pattern. We began the Summer Impact Program beginning of July, and right now the city's been extremely quiet. We haven't had a homicide or a non-fatal shooting, which for a city of our size is pretty significant.
If we compare ourselves to Springfield's and Lawrence's, Hartford's, there does seem as if they have more problems crime-wise than we do. So it's not just luck. I mean, it's something that you're doing in the department.
Well, I think it's our overall strategy, our community policing strategy. Being in the neighborhoods, there's 50 neighborhood groups that we work very closely with, that they're really our eyes and ears in the community. And then we've been fortunate to have the resources from the city administration and the city council, particularly for the Summer Impact Program. And this year we were able to run a Spring Impact Program. And what that really means is that we're able to put additional police officers out on the street every night, particularly during the times when it's the busiest in the city, and that's between 6 at night to 2 in the morning. And we're also able to supplement our anti-crime team till 4 o'clock in the morning. So we have a lot of resources out on the city streets during our busiest times, which really pays dividends.
Yeah, so you get to be proactive instead of reactive. Instead of hearing about something happening in a park with a gang of young people, you're able to maybe break that up so that it never happens. I was lucky enough in 2008 to ride along with one night with the Summer Impact Program. But I got to tell you, with our budget and all that I keep hearing about and the budget cuts, how are we paying for a Summer Impact Program this year?
Well, one of the things that we're just trying to be smart about how we use our resources. One of the things that we're down 70 police officers. So that's about $4 million in salaries that the city isn't paying this year. But we were fortunate enough to maintain an overtime budget that allows us to strategically use our resources. And one of the hallmarks of my administration is developing a very proactive crime analysis unit that works not only with the analysts, but gathering that street intelligence and bringing it all together in a commander's meeting, and then focusing our resources strategically where we're seeing the problem. So for instance, in the early spring when we've seen an uptick in violence, then we instituted the Spring Impact Program, putting additional police officers in particular neighborhoods where we saw that, and then things seemed to calm down. And we were able to run our Summer Impact right on the heels of that Spring Impact Program, which really had given us the opportunity to be out front on a lot of these issues.
That's really what it is. I mean, you really have to be visible out there in the community. You talked about community policing a moment ago, and I want to follow up on that. I also read the Research Bureau's report about neighborhood safety that they just put out, and it does seem from reading that report that the Worcester Police Department is doing an excellent job when it comes to having these community relations, and that's having a big impact on why perhaps we don't have as much crime as, say, a Hartford or a city that's a comparable size.
Absolutely. We have a very good relationship with the police chief down in Providence, and he is always amazed when we talk about our community policing program. They don't have a neighborhood program such as ours, where we have 50 active neighborhood groups that we dedicate police officers to dealing with quality of life issues on a regular basis. I mean, that's unique to the city of Worcester, and again, that makes a huge difference in the city, because we're hearing about the problems before they've manifested into becoming chronic problems. And that improves the quality of life in the neighborhood.
So again, it's all about being proactive. Public safety, of course, I mean, if you ask people, I mean, what is their top priority? They're going to tell you that their sidewalk needs to be fixed or the road in front of them, but public safety is probably number one on most people's mind as well. They want their tax money to go towards feeling safe. And again, so I do kind of want to come back again to the fact that in these hard budget times, it does seem as if that has got to at some point have an impact, that you keep doing more with less. At some point, does that catch up with the department?
Well, that has been the manager's philosophy since I've been a police chief almost 6 years, is that, you know, we have to really maximize our resources, and we're in a situation where we have to do more with less. And fortunately for us, the police department, I mean, we have a very dedicated professional police organization where the officers rise to the occasion. And even though we're down 70 police officers, 10 officials and 60 sworn patrol officers, we seem to be able to do the job. And again, we try to balance our overtime resources so that we're dealing with things strategically and not just throwing resources at problems or trying to flood a particular neighborhood, and which can create other issues. So what we try to do is, you know, make sure that the officers have sufficient enough rest, that they're ready to hit the streets, and that they have the information and the intelligence to do a very effective job.
All right, Chief, coming up, I want to talk to you a little bit about a recent Clive McFarland article in which he was writing about the police department, and get a little bit more into some of the things that the Research Bureau talked about ways in which maybe we can have a safer city. Also, immigration seems to be certainly the topic of conversation in the nation. It seems as if the Worcester Police Department has a good relationship with the immigrants here in our city, and I'd like to ask you about that. We'll do it straight ahead right here on the Hank Stolz Experience.
Telling me I got to beware. I think it's time we stop, children. What's that?